Right. First of all, I think there is a lot of noise out there, right? And there's a lot of stuff and data that we get fed every day about the way that you should approach something and that you should be on social media and you should do this and you should do that. But the thing is that every business has a particular set of customers and you need to be where those customers are. So there is no point you being on TikTok if that's not where your customers are. Why would you put energy somewhere where you have no one who is going to resonate with your product or service? So you need to find the places where your people are. Who believes what you believe, right? That's what Simon Sinek says to us. Find your why, find your people who believe what you believe, and then find where they are and what they care about and how you communicate with them one-on-one.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions, where we support entrepreneurs just like you with event-based marketing and sales strategies, allowing you to build your authority, your credibility, and your visibility in your industry. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to our guest, but before I do that, I have a couple of questions for you. Let me ask you this. Do you consider yourself to be a founder with a really huge vision that maybe just needs help to make the operations work? Or have you been just searching for someone who can just break down that vision and find ways to bring it to life? Well, whether that is through reaching new customers, hiring high-performing teams, setting up scalable operations, processes, marketing, sales, our guest today has worked with many, many different founders and startups of people in the impact space, helping an e-commerce business get back to profit. Heck yeah. To supporting a founder to build, raise capital, and launch an app to help people and organizations take action, to being a part of a 1,000-person event, bringing together Australia's brightest minds in the social and the environmental impact space, which I definitely want to talk about. But first, please help me welcome Natasha Ritz to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you, Tosh?
I am so great. Thank you so much for having me, Shay.
I'm thrilled to have you because I also work with a number of visionary leaders, and that's what they do wonderfully well, right? Is the vision part, is the thinking about things that nobody else can really think about. But then when you have it, how do you actually then put it into practice so it can get out into the world and create impact, right? So how do you really support putting action to and bringing vision to that for our visionaries out there?
Such a great question. So there are lots of approaches you can take, and it really depends on the kind of founder that you work with. Now, I believe in strong partnership, right? And so the relationship that I have with all of the different founders that I work with is really important. First of all, that trust that we have with each other I first have to understand what their visions are in a lot of detail and really believe in what they're doing in order to help them bring that vision to life. And to do that, there are so many approaches, but essentially it's looking at things at a 10-year vision, at a 5-year vision, 3 years, 1 year, and then breaking it down into quarters. And once you sort of start to break that vision down, you can think about, okay, well, we know where we're going long term. But in the immediate future, what are the small things we can do to take action right now? And I like to use this concept called massive action, which is created by this woman called Kara Lowenthal. And it's this idea essentially that if you do something for as little as 1 to 5 minutes a day, at the end of the year, you'll have done 365 minutes more than what you would have if you hadn't started at all. So I like to think about, from a business perspective or a founder perspective, okay, we've got, let's say we have a small team, there might be 3, there might be 5 people, and each person is looking after a set of objectives. And within those objectives, you have really clear results. You're looking for specific key results, and those things might be revenue results, they might be unit results, they might be ticket sales, they could be any variation of, a number of customers joining a pre-sign up for something, whatever that is. And you have to work together to figure out, okay, in the immediate future, this 3-month period, I need to do these 4 things. And every day I'm going to edge closer to these 4 things. And then you hone your focus in on those. And you can create really great processes around those things because we have so much access to awesome, technologies and things today. So breaking it down into simple bite-sized chunks and looking at the sort of immediate things we can take action on sometimes helps to relieve the stress that comes with having such a huge vision in mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you can take that breaking it down process into everything, right? Like when we're looking at our clients' offers and what they're bringing to the marketplace, how do we take that offer, break it down, and use pieces of it as the event experience, right? And take them on a journey. So that's another place of breaking it down. How would you do it in terms of marketing so that you're actually doing it effectively? Because there's tons of people out there that be like, oh yeah, pay me $75,000 for the year and I will do ads for you and I will, but at first I need to, it takes 3 months to actually get things figured out. And you're like, well, what? How would you look at
Yes.
marketing?
Yes. Amen. So, all right. First of all, I think there is a lot of noise out there, right? And there's a lot of stuff and data that we get fed every day about the way that you should approach something and that you should be on social media and you should do this and you should do that. But the thing is that every business has a particular set of customers and you need to be where those customers are. So there is no point you being on TikTok if that's not where your customers are. Why would you put energy somewhere where you have no one who is going to resonate with your product or service? So you need to find the places where your people are. Who believes what you believe, right? That's what Simon Sinek says to us. Find your why, find your people who believe what you believe, and then find where they are and what they care about and how you communicate with them one-on-one. And, there is no right approach. There's just a unique approach for each business. So when people talk about marketing for an organization, the first thing you need to think about is who is on the other end of your product or service, who is the person that you are there to serve. And when you know that you're in service of that person, it becomes easier to figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do for them and where you need to be for them. And that may be, you've got all these tools, all these levers that you can pull that are accessible for you, like email and SMS and your website and your social channels. And, there's all these places, but you only need to be where your customers are. And you only need to do the things that will serve them. And so you can cull the rest of the stuff if you think about it from that lens.
Yeah. So if you're going and talking to a visionary and maybe they're more of a startup, and they're saying like, this is my vision, this is what I want to do. How do I get it out there? How do I find the people? I don't know if you have any examples that you can maybe bring into a story for us or something along those lines, but where would you take them? How would you start with them?
Yeah. All right. So really, really interesting. There's so many different founders I could talk about. I want to talk about one particular founder who's working currently on an app called Get Me. And this app essentially helps people who have English as a second language to become interview ready in Australia, who've maybe not previously had these particular skills because they've come from another country. He's got a fascinating story. He was a refugee and he came to Australia, and this was a tool that he would have needed. When he first started working on this app, it was much broader and it was more about helping a broader population of people learning different skills. But what he had to do over time was he had to learn to niche the product down to do something more specific rather than be for everyone or too many people. Because sometimes when your product is way too broad, you actually don't know who your customer is. And if you don't know who your customer is, that's a real problem. And so when you have a big vision, like you really want to help a lot of people, particularly, in this case, people who have English as a second language, but niching down into helping them become interview ready was the key to sort of unlocking the connections and success. And so you have to understand, first of all, who your product is for. And sometimes you have to be able to go, okay, well, the future could be more people, but what could I do right now to be more specific to help a group of people essentially achieve something themselves? So I think that's sort of the one major key there. And I think
it kind of reminds me of like, you've ever heard of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, right? Like they had
yes,
one book and then it becomes Chicken Soup for the Soul for the entrepreneurs, for the moms, for, this, for this. You've essentially done the same thing where
yes,
it's getting interview ready. And then it can be for this, for this, for this. And then you're reaching, like you were mentioning earlier, that 10-year vision of all of these people. But you had to start here with the ones to get interview ready first, right?
yes, that's right. That's
Got it.
right. And, and then there's so many other different examples of that where, someone will say, I'll come to a founder and they'll say, oh, this is our vision. And, we think that our product's for everybody. And I always think if you think your product's for everybody, it's actually for nobody.
Mhm.
And so you really that's the core of everything I always will do, and ask a lot of questions around, okay, well, what problem are you solving for that person? What are their needs? How are you meeting their needs? Who are you in service of? How are you serving them? All of these questions to dig down into, okay, there's definitely a person at the end of this in terms of who you're serving. So we've got to get there.
Yeah, it's like way back in the day when I was doing, networking, just starting out in business, and you run into the, I don't know, Mary Kays of the world or something, and they're like, anybody with skin, and you're like, I cannot think of anybody that doesn't help me. But if you go, I work with, I don't know, single moms that are between 25 and 35 and they're getting acne again after having a baby. Then you go, oh, I know Sally Sue, who was just telling me about that exact problem.
Yes, that's
Let me
it,
introduce you.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me help you. And the thing is that sometimes people feel maybe a little bit like stifled by being in a niche, or like, oh, is there a limit to the market if I tap out at that particular niche?
Yeah.
And look, there might be, but you haven't even entered it yet. So
Yeah.
you
Right.
need to,
Right.
yeah. So, and you need to, that's how business starts, right? It's about personal connection with people. And ultimately, any sale that you're going to make is a one-on-one connection with a person. And it's about fitting in with their values and something that they actually really need. So you need to go down a path of figuring out, first of all, is there product market fit? Do I have a product that suits this particular person? And you need to try and sell it, and then you need to get feedback from people around, how did it go? What did you think? How does it feel for you? What was your experience? And then you get feedback and you can improve your product or service or whatever that is. But you have to try down the specific niche before you can think that it's going to either stifle your market, or you have to be like, okay, well, that's the first market, that's our first pillar, and then
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have all these other ones later down the track so that we can expand out.
Yeah. So, kind of keeping with some of the same ideas, but like the marketing, the digital marketing, social media landscape. What are you seeing are the impacts of AI with all of it, and how is it support or hurt those in the startup area?
Yeah, fascinating stuff. So, my belief is that AI is sort of the next frontier after social media, right? So, when social media came out, uh, I was one of the first people in this side of the world to actually jump on having a Facebook company page. And I remember thinking, this is interesting, right? This is really interesting to play with this stuff, to adopt it, to figure it out. And it was such a different time, right? 2008, you could gather all these followers and everyone was so excited about fan pages and it was really new. And one of the biggest lessons I think I learned at that time was around adapting and needing to learn to adapt to the new technologies and things that come out. And so that's how I feel about AI. I think that it can really serve us. It can serve all the administrative things that you don't want to do. AI can do that for you.
Yeah.
And it can be a really interesting starting point for research, for example. I've used it to help me research for I'm studying behavioral sciences at university as well, and I've used it to help collate a whole lot of resources for me, and it does it in 5 seconds, and then I don't have to like hunt through a library for something that I need to read. It can collate all of that for me. I've used it as a starting point for some copy sometimes, or I've tested out what AI imagery looks on Canva to see, like, to play with things. And I think it can be a real playground if you allow it. Now, of course, there's like ethical implications and things to think about. And, if you've written an article, for example, and you've used AI to support you to do it, you could write at the bottom, this article was supported by AI. I think the transparency and honesty of use is really important. I think thinking about the long-term implications of it is an important thing. But I think embracing the technology that's in front of us to help us speed things up, improve our productivity, reduce all of our administrative work, all of those things, those are really powerful and helpful things.
Yeah, love it. I agree with you. Now I want to switch gears completely, because before we jumped on and started pressing the record button here, we were talking about that there's 1,000-person event, right? And so I'm like, I want to geek out and ask her about that. But you were saying so many amazing things, especially there was a certain keyword around experiences that I would love for you to share what you shared with me earlier with our audience, because I feel it's great not only in the event, but then you can also incorporate it into other pieces of it. So can you share a little bit about that event that you supported?
For sure. So I worked on an event for 2 years. It was called Purpose Conference. And essentially, we brought together Australia's leaders and smartest minds in social enterprise. So those were businesses working on social impact and working on environmental sustainability, but with a business lens. So they were all for-profit businesses with a purpose, essentially. And the gap in the market was essentially, in Australia, it's quite a small market, and in 2015, when the founder Sally launched Purpose, there was about 250 people. And then last year when we ran it, there was just under 1,000. So the space is growing, and it's really a space for founders to come together to talk about how you solve these major problems using business, how you funnel capital into the right types of businesses that will have positive impact in the world in the future. One of the key things with the event that we work on, that is a sort of concept that Sally, the founder, created, is really around this experience design. And what that is looking at the emotional impact or the emotion that you create at different parts of the event in order to take somebody on a journey. So it's about thinking about their experience at every step of the way. And we did that through a series of workshops where we basically looked at the customer journey from an event perspective. So this in-person, real life customer journey. And we had all these sticky notes up on a wall, and we looked at the different sort of types of people that would likely come to Purpose Conference, our target market. And we took them on a journey, and we talked about them all day about, the first moment where they're all sitting together as a group of 1,000 people, and what they're going to listen to and how we want them to feel, and, incorporating music and dance and First Nations, Indigenous culture in partnership with First Nations communities here, and, artworks that people can engage with throughout the day as a collective piece. beautiful locally made food from a not-for-profit just in the same sort of building, and all different speakers to invoke a different set of emotions. At the end of the day, we wanted people to leave, the first day on a real high, to come back really energized for the second day. And so it was about thinking about who are the speakers that can create that sense, that emotional connection for people. What's the music? What's the artwork up on the digital screens looking like? What's the flow between rooms? And how do people engage with each other? How do we create small little nooks for people to sit together and have deep conversation? How do we create spaces for people to just go sit and introspect and think about, maybe people who need quiet spaces or whatever it is, so we really looked at everything end to end. And it's like you said, these ideas can be used and applied in any business context. You can think about experience design if you're an e-commerce business, about what is the experience people have when they open the box of your product. What does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How does it make them feel inside? There's all these things that you can do to think about an experience, and you can think about that at every touch point, whether it's digital or in person.
Yeah, I just love the word that you were saying, the experience design. It's something that like we do in our events for our clients is that journey, right? And what is the purpose and intention of it? What is the end result? What do they walk away with at the end of the event? Whether or not they continue to do business with you or not, what are they walking away with? What's that event promise, right? But I love that we're also looking at it from just business in general. What is that journey? Because I think when you do business for a while, it kind of becomes like this rote thing, and you're just like, yeah. But to put a different perspective on it and think of the journey of how we can go from a level 7 to a level 10 experience for your audience, and then what that would do to not only invigorate you and your team, but also your audience to re-engage with you and maybe re-enroll with you as well. So I just absolutely love that. Thank you so much for sharing that bit of behind the scenes and how we can utilize it going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know we've got to wrap up here. You've got something interesting that you're going to be sharing with our audience on how they can stay connected to you, and what is that exactly?
Yeah, awesome. So I have written a book. It's called Souling, and is essentially a book. Well, souling is a verb. It's how to enter into and take action on experiencing your soul. Like all the good things, we have to learn, and we want to know how to take action. So that's why I used a verb to create that word. And today I've got 10% off for all of your awesome followers and fans. And you can just use Shay Wheat, all one word, as a 10% discount at my website, which is just souling, spelled SOULING.au.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And would you like, it's kind of like, okay, wait, she's talking about operations, she's talking about helping visionaries. How does souling come into play? Why would I need to read a book about souling when I'm like just needing somebody to help me with the operations side?
Totally. Well, because I think as founders and big visionary founders, often what happens is everyone gets stuck in the weeds, you get stuck in the doing, it's quite high stress, it's, really busy. But one of the most important things that people can do is actually stop and take stock and introspect and take time on themselves and do real self-care. Sitting and reading a physical book is a really positive thing, first of all. But second of all, I give a lot of actionable tools and gateways to experience yourself, to become more self-aware. I use a lot of psychological theory so you can understand how your brain works and how your physiology works. And that will give you more entry points into yourself. Having more self-awareness will help you in your business. Having more tools will help you to stay calm, give yourself time, and really, I guess, relax into that bigger vision, knowing that you will get there, but it takes time to do that. And you also need rest. And that's
Yeah.
what this book is about.
Which is, really the genius of a visionary, is to be able to tap into that piece and not get into the operations all the time, right? That kind of just seems to, when I'm watching my visionaries get into the weeds of it, it just kind of like depletes their soul. So the souling seems like it would reboot it. So thank you for that. We'll have the link in the show notes. But my last question for you is, what is a takeaway or a memorable note you'd like to leave our audience with?
I always love to leave people with a question. So I would like to ask your audience, what do you need right now? It's really important that you spend time thinking about your needs and entering into yourself. And I know that we don't often ask ourselves that question. So I want you to ask yourself, what do I need right now?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank our audience for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm excited for you to take all of these lessons and these resources that you've learned here, implement them, and create even more impact in your world. Until next time, have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.